All right, guys, we're back on Southeastern 16 with Max Barr, SEC Basketball Tuesday here at the
Come on.
channel.
Come
And
on.
all you people in the chat, Holly, Shane, all taking the over on the 2 minutes late today. Well, guess what? We made sure we went live at 10:01 Central Time. So we hit the under. If you all bet on the under of whether we would be, over under 2 minutes, we win today. Um, most of the time you win, though. But let's see who wins in our way too early SEC basketball power rankings tiers for the 25-26 season. And as always, we try to do this during the summer where Max and I had this debate yesterday. We're like, do we just do the full 1 through 16 or do we do it by tiers? And Max knows I always tell him the same thing. I'm like, I'm not in a spot yet where I feel like I could even argue against anyone who's like, oh, well, that team should be 14 instead of, 12 or whatever. I'm not there yet. So that's why we're doing tiers, is to kind of give you, here's where we have these teams grouped right now. And we have 4 specific tiers for where we think these teams could be at. And we will also, within that, Max is way more confident, I think, in his 1 through 16 right now than I am. So we will talk through it, Max.
Yeah, come on, guys. July 1st, talking SEC rankings. Those two things in the same sentence. July 1st, and we're talking SEC basketball preseason rankings. Sign me up for all of that. I'm going to be in every time. July 2nd, July 3rd. I'll talk about these rankings every day until the season. Let's go, Blake. You're firing me up already. We're 2 minutes into the video, and I'm already fired up. This is off to a great start.
Well, Max always sticks to the assignment. I don't. So we will see how I wiggle my way out of some of these rankings. While Max will give you a pretty good answer on some of his. But before we jump into it, remember, if you're jumping in, you can always leave a super chat to help out the channel. You can do that. We'll answer your questions, comments, all that good stuff as we go through these rankings. Of course, our friends at GameTime SIDEKICKS, you can see it right there. Max drinking God knows what out of that cup right there. But it's something that's got him fired up for the power rankings. So remember, GameTime SIDEKICKS, check it out. And you can join the It Just Means More tier, Southeastern 16. Our members, my goodness, the members just coming through for us right now, Max.
Fantastic.
You guys are staying with all the bonus content this offseason for our hundreds of members now here on the channel. So we appreciate you guys jumping in and supporting us there. All right, let's do it. The moment you've been waiting for. The power rankings tiers for the 25-26 season, the way too early one. Yes, if Lenardi can put out a bracket, we can put out a 1 through 16. Well, the backlash to that one gives me even more reason not to do the 1 through 16. But, all right, here we go. Max, we're going to start with what we're classifying as the wild cards. Are you ready? These are the teams that I think, and you can tell me what your definition of this would be. To me, these are the teams that, in all honesty, I do not have a great read on right now, and that's why I'm putting them in the wild cards category. Now, there may be some people who will say, well, you could replace wild cards with just saying, these are the teams you think are going to finish at the bottom. Not necessarily true.
No.
These are just the teams that I have a really tough time getting a read on what their expectations will be next season. If we are talking about Lenardi, remember, he had 14 SEC teams in his June bracketology for next March. So we were initially, Max, talking about, well, do we call these teams, I don't know, do we call these like bubble teams or tournaments? We're like, everybody in the SEC is on the bubble, basically. I mean, everybody could get in, I suppose. But so our wild card teams, Max, how many do you have in yours? I have currently 4 in my wild card teams.
Yep, me too. I have 4.
Ooh. Are we going to have the same ones? All right, here we go. I have South Carolina as one of my teams.
I also have the Gamecocks. And Blake, I've also wild card tier. I've also, and this may not sound as good, but in my head, I've done a mental gymnastics with this tier of calling it if we're in March and they did not make the tournament, you won't get a surprised reaction out of me.
There you go.
That's what I'm saying. Just if they do not make the tournament, I'll go, back in July I could have told you that.
All right. I have LSU in the wild cards tier.
The reloaded LSU Tigers are in my wild card tier as well.
Well, they're reloaded, but I don't, and we'll talk through it in a second. I don't know
Yep.
where to put them. I have Georgia in my wild cards tier.
I have one team. I ranked mine. I have one team before Georgia, but I also have Georgia. My other team to round out my wild card tier. So South Carolina, LSU, Georgia, and the Mississippi State Bulldogs are my 4 for that group. Did you have a different?
Nope. I had Mississippi State, Georgia, LSU, South Carolina. Those are the 4 teams that I have in this tier. So if we focus on these teams for a second, you did your 1 through 16, right? So
I did.
What order do you have these 4 in?
I went starting from 16. I have South Carolina, and then I went LSU at 15, Mississippi State at 14, and then Georgia at 13. There's a lot of question marks with all these rosters for me. Like you said, teams that you don't really know where they're going to end up. However, I will say I think one of these teams really outperforms, whether that's Hubbard and Epps really click, and maybe Achora has a big bounce back season and it's Mississippi State. Maybe Samto Cyril has a huge sophomore leap jump. They've got a decent depth there with Dylan James. Maybe that front court for Georgia combined with some new scoring from the transfer portal. Maybe that's Georgia. It would be harder for me to see it from LSU or South Carolina, though, Blake.
Yeah, so if you look at the bracketologies again that are out there, way too early projections. Look, I mean, LSU and South Carolina are the 2 teams that are not included in most of that. Of course, those were the 2 teams that didn't make it last year. So I think, to me, we're probably putting them in there to say, hey, you got to prove it to kind of, in this landscape of the SEC, you got to prove you can get back into that mix. And we said both teams basically came out and said, hey, we're going to try to spend more money this offseason and see if we can put together a roster that can be in the NCAA tournament. And I think until I see how maybe that first month of non-conference plays out, I'm going to keep having questions just to see if they can make that jump into that mix. I've said my thoughts on Georgia. I think Georgia is a team that obviously has some guys that are your sort of breakout type contenders. I feel like they've got multiple of those guys. But you certainly lost a few key pieces from the team last year, including a top tier draft pick in Asa Newell. And so I'm in wait and see mode on Georgia. Mississippi State's the one that I keep going back to, and I'm like, okay, are we going to do this? Are we going to really call them a wild card when, as we've pointed out, every single season under Chris Jans, they have won 21 games overall, 8 games in SEC play, which has put them in 9th place every year. And they've been in the tournament every year. So I'm just like, maybe it's just thinking that they're going to, take a step backwards, even with, again, a roster that looks a little bit different, but they still have Hubbard. I think we were both impressed by them getting a Jayden Epps to the mix. They've got some experience in the front court. It's just, I think we want to see how the pieces come together. Fair on Mississippi State?
Yeah, that's the thing with me too. When you go back and you're like, okay, yes, they were 9 seeds every year, but they were 9 seeds with first team all SEC players. Tolu Smith was one of the best bigs in the league for years. Cam Matthews was a defense, and Jeffries defensive. There's not too many individual perimeter defenders like those two, and so it's gonna be a lot different in the front court. We know what to expect from Hubbard. Epps is gonna be a volume scorer like he was at Georgetown. Sean Jones is your utility guy that does a little bit of everything. It's just that front court where it's the questions. But just like each of these teams, there's stuff you can trust, and then there's the big questions. Like with LSU, Blake, I love Deaton Thomas, and then I love that front court, whether it's Rob Miller or Markel Sutton. Jalen Reed coming off injury. They got Mike Nwoko, who's already had big SEC minutes, but is Ron Zipper going to be an SEC starter?
Uh-oh. Did Max freeze? See, it's not surprising that Max may freeze on Ron Zipper.
Is Rashad King?
Because, oh, he's back. Nope, he's frozen. Nope, he's back. You guys are enjoying this as much as I am. So that's okay. I'll give it like 2 more seconds and Max will be back live and in living color as he was going through LSU. But no, I mean, look, we talk about, again, LSU. They're a team that we said it's kind of a big year. The face you come back to. Incredible. Big year for Matt McMahon. Big year for Max's internet speed here. But as Holly says, someone's got to play the part since Chris isn't here. So
they don't want me to talk about the zipper.
I think, yeah, they're already getting stuck. How about this? You're getting stuck with a zipper. I think that's what happened there. There you go. All right, let's continue on. These are the teams we said we've got questions about, and maybe more questions than some of the other teams there. But also just to point out too, I mean, Mike White at Georgia got him back to the tournament last year, and we said that program, remember where they were when he took over in 22, and now to get him back to the tournament and seemingly having some positive momentum there for the program. So we'll see what happens with Georgia. I know we seem to at times feel like we undervalue Georgia, but I don't know. I want to see how it plays out. All right, sleeper teams, Max. We go to this next category. And again, we were initially going to call this like NCAA tournament teams, but they were like, well, we could theoretically throw everyone in that list. But so let's call this the sleeper teams. Now, how do you want to classify the sleeper teams, Max? Because to me, it is the teams that, all right, let's say you have one of these that just comes out of nowhere, not necessarily saying one of these teams are going to win the league, but maybe one of these teams that, let's say, is initially projected as maybe an 8-9 type seed, 10 seed, something like that, that all of a sudden shoots up. And would it be fair to say maybe they're somewhat similar to like a Missouri from last year? Would that be fair? So somewhere in that, a team that not necessarily, we know Missouri was coming off a pretty rough year the year before, but the teams that can kind of jump up at times feel like they're sort of surprising people. I think that's good for the sleeper group here.
Yeah, the mental gymnastic description of this tier would be very surprised if they miss the tournament and have the capability of jumping into the next tier. Like I would say these teams, I think these are tournament teams, and if everything goes well, could be even more. That's what I put this as.
All right. I have Oklahoma in this tier.
That's what I start them out with as well. I got the Sooners right there at 12.
I have Texas A&M in this category.
I'll do you one better. I've got the 2 Texas schools right here at 11 and 10. I've got the Texases, A&M and Longhorns.
And do you have a 4th team in this category?
I have so.
Or do you have 2?
This was my big category. I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 in this tier.
Okay, so you have Missouri and Ole Miss in this tier.
Maybe.
All right. So your sleeper tier now consists of Oklahoma, Texas, Texas A&M, Missouri, and Ole Miss.
Yes. I went bold on one team. I bumped.
Well, clearly you did, because my sleeper tier consists. Actually, give me your rankings first. Your rankings for these 5 in this order.
I go Oklahoma 12, Texas A&M 11, Texas 10, Missouri 9, Ole Miss 8.
Okay. I like it. All right. I have in this tier. I think my next tier is gonna. It's very strange. I think I got more teams than you do in this next tier. I've got Oklahoma, as I said. I've got Texas A&M, although they're one that they're growing on me. I almost thought about putting them in this other tier, and I also have Ole Miss in this tier as well. So
Was
I
there
have
a
those
team
three.
that I had in this tier that you did not, or did mine include yours?
Well, you're about to see with mine. No, so I have three in this tier.
You only have 3.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. Okay.
My next tier is going to get pretty crowded, as you can tell.
Okay.
So yeah.
So just to clarify, give me your tier here for the sleepers again.
So I've got Oklahoma, I've got Texas A&M, I've got Ole Miss.
Okay. Okay. So I have the Longhorns and Mizzou here that you don't.
Yep. Correct.
Okay.
Yep. Yeah. So I mean, we'll get to the other team in a second. I think it's the team that we've not mentioned that people are going to be surprised by, but we both had them clearly higher. And I was surprised. I didn't think you would have them in the next tier, but you do. Yeah. So I mean, again, I think A&M's the team that's grown the most on me this offseason. Like I said, I think their starting 5 can compete with anybody. I think they can be that good. Oklahoma, as we talked about, clearly a team that has got some pieces in place. I know they lose a top, 5 draft pick or wherever Fears went, but I think they put together a very competitive roster. And Ole Miss, to me, is probably, like I said, the one that I may want to push higher, just because, again, I think it's we talked about the combination of the front court. You've got some new pieces in the back court too, but yeah, I think again that these are 3 teams that, like you said, we all expect to make the tournament, and so that's my thoughts on these 3, and I think again they're sleepers because I keep saying too, we do have a pretty good feel on where I think teams are going to be picked in the preseason. And I feel like these are teams that will be picked in that range of, let's say, 9 to 12, somewhere in there. And so I think that's what qualifies you as kind of the status of teams that could go out of nowhere, kind of come out of nowhere and be surprise ones. So,
yeah, it's just a one less question than the tier below. Like with Oklahoma, you guys know I really like Porter Moser. Love the backcourt, right? And I like Forsyth, Jayden Jones, and Nwankwo off the bench. And I like Tay Davis, and I'm a rare soul, I feel like, in the SEC basketball community that liked what they saw from Mo Wagi last year. I don't know if it was just he was better than the other big men for Oklahoma, so it made him look better. But I thought the minutes that he was on the floor, Oklahoma looked not too bad. It's just that depth. What's behind Tay Davis and Mo Wagi? What happens if Tay Davis gets 3 fouls quick in the first half? What does that front court look like? Questions right there. Then with Ole Miss, is it what AJ Store are we getting? I mean, are we getting 17 points per game AJ Store from 2 years ago, or is he going to struggle to stay on the floor? That has a major impact on how this team is. So just a few more questions with this tier. But Blake, I watched the Field of 68 interview with Bucky the other day, and there's one line from Bucky that stood out, and he said, they were talking about his pace, just, kind of where his KenPom stats are always sitting. And he was like, we're going to try to be number 1 scoring team in the country this year. We're going to try to be number 1 in the nation, highest scoring team, highest tempo in the nation. And I'm just like, man, this could be a team where we're watching them fly up and down the court. Rylan Griffin's 5 of 8 from 3. And Mbako's looking like a first-round draft pick. Federico, you can't score on the guy around the rim. And we're just like, wow. How did we not see this coming from the Aggies? Just like you, they're starting to grow on me every day.
Yeah, I think if you guys look at the roster, you should be able to understand why we're getting very high on these guys. They're old. They've got guys who've played some top level Division I basketball, and again, it may not look exactly like it's going to look next year or the year after, but I think A&M is in a pretty much better shot than maybe I expect them to be, just based on, obviously have a significant coaching change and that kind of stuff. Like, you just never know, but I think they're in a good spot. And look, Wicked Brew brings up Ole Miss. Yeah, I mean, expectations high for Ole Miss. It's starting 5 for Ole Miss, talking Final Four. Not saying we get there, but they have massive expectations, as they should. And so, yeah, I mean, that's why, again, I think Ole Miss will be picked somewhere in this range. And I think that they will have an opportunity to, again, be a team that sort of crashes the party just based on the expectations. So, yeah.
Yeah, I got it. Ole Miss like 8 or 7 probably is where they're going to land in my preseason with absolutely the ability to climb. I really like the way that this roster's set up. You guys know how much I've talked about Cameron already this offseason. So,
yeah. Shout out to Zach, who's here, $2 on the super chat. Holy moly, Zach says, I made the live stream. Appreciate you, Zach. Also, before we jump into the next tier, which is where things are going to start to get a little interesting, probably. Again, let's remind you quickly about our friends at GameTime SIDEKICKS and Max drinking out of the All-SEC Cup over there. Officially licensed stainless steel drinkware. All the SEC schools represented, plus over 350 more universities. Top of the market quality as far as the construction and ice retention. All the logo printing and product decoration done in Knoxville. Again, they have all kinds of designs, the logos. They offer the College Vault line. That's a fun one there. Check out all the stuff in that. We got everything from stainless steel sippy cups, the tumblers, the 40-ounce bottles, and the shaker cups. And remember, guys, I'm going to put the link right now in this description. Remember, there has been a significant development. That code initially, SE16, got you 10% off. Now it gets you 20% off. 20%. GameTimeSidekicks.com, SE16. 20% off your order there. They've been telling us you guys are buying the cups. We need you to keep buying the cups. It supports the channel and lets us do more videos and live streams for you guys. So, all right. Yes, as Zach noted, Auburn now officially a Nike company today, Max.
Speaking of Auburn, I went with the Janai Broom Final Four today.
Look at that.
Yep.
Look at that.
We're brooming it up today.
Big Baller Brett's out of here, but that's okay. All right. Are you ready? This is where things, I think, get fun. It is July. Keep that in mind. It's July. So we have time to change our rankings here. All right, Max. The Contenders is what we're calling this next group. Now, again, I think you can have your own thought of what we mean by contenders. I don't necessarily mean championship SEC regular season title contenders for a couple of these teams. But I think these are teams that can contend in the top part of the league. Is that fair? So that is my thought on the contenders category, which, as you said, there were two teams you had in your sleeper group that I moved up to the contenders range, and that was Texas and Missouri. I have these two teams in here because, again, I know Texas maybe does not have the depth that some people would like to see. But I'm telling you, Max, the 1 through 7 or so of that Texas lineup, I like it. And I like Sean Miller as a coach. I think that he has got some proven guys there. And we mentioned, I think there's some guys that aren't being talked about a lot that could still be pretty significant difference makers for that team. And so I'm pretty high on Texas. Missouri's the team that I've certainly gotten more optimistic on, I think, as the offseason has progressed. I think having a Mark Mitchell returning is significant there. There are some key exits, of course, like, losing a Caleb Grill is big. But I'm going to put them in this category, which is a pretty, like I said, somewhat wide range of group here. But remember, if we talk about the teams that have already been mentioned, we're really still talking about teams kind of in this 7 to 9 range at this point in this discussion before we get to some of these other teams.
Yeah, with Texas, I think they're going to be my A&M. Blake, I think they're going to be my last year's A&M. I love Lucina Traore too much already. It's a problem. I like him too much. The bias is already starting to creep in. And then you guys know from last year, one of my favorite players down the stretch was Kendall Weaver. Not sure why. We had some Tommy H Player of the Year comments earlier. Not sure why we haven't had Kendall Weaver Player of the Year comments, if you want to ask me. No, I really like this team. I mean, I think Sim Wilcher is not being talked about enough. Starter on a 2 seed. He comes over. He's just completely not talked about. Tremont Mark. People want to talk about doing their first team, second teams, and I haven't seen Tremont Mark on any of them. I mean, have we forgotten what this guy does on offense? So I think Texas is being extremely underrated, and no one has talked about John Clark. the 4-star freshman, who is just not being talked about with any of the other freshmen that are ranked just around where he is as well. So I'm right there with you on Texas. They're growing on me. And then Missouri, I put out a tweet the other day about our rankings coming out and just like what are people's hot takes. And I'm not going to be able to pull it up right now, but we had one about Anthony Robinson, being first team all SEC. And I was like, you know what? I remember back to last year looking through the Evan Mia stuff, and Ant Robinson was like a top 5, top 10 SEC player last year analytically. And I'm like, okay, well, geez, if we get another really, really impressive year from Ant Robinson with Mark Mitchell, maybe that's enough with those two, that 2-star power there. The enough pieces fit around them, and I can see it work. I feel like we have been, well, maybe just me personally, been overlooking Ant Robinson a lot this offseason relative to what his analytics are. Don't give him enough credit.
Yeah, and I think, again, these are two teams that I have on the lower end of this range. So, like, I still think I'm probably talking right now, maybe in that 8 to 9, like I said, somewhere like that, probably for these teams. But I wanted to give them a little love because guess what? They haven't lost a game yet. So I can give them a little more love in July until we see how it plays out, 4 months from now. So I'm settling with them right here for now. They're kind of on that tweener line probably for me between this group and the sleeper group. But again, because I may be a little bit higher on them, I'll move them up to the spot for now. We'll see if that's where I have them ultimately when we do our probably first preseason rankings, which will be mid-October, early October, something like that. So, yeah. So that's where I'm at with those two. I know you had them a little lower, but I'll play with the upside for these two teams right now. All right, Max. We both have got this team in this group, it sounds like. That is the Commodores of Vanderbilt, who we are higher on than pretty much maybe everyone, because I just looked at the updated national championship odds. Vanderbilt has the same odds as South Carolina.
Wow. What are they looking at?
Georgia actually has the worst odds of any SEC team via DraftKings right now. And so, just notable too, Missouri is about somewhat similar to A&M and Mississippi State. LSU also kind of in that same group. But then there's a pretty big drop-off to Vanderbilt, South Carolina, and Georgia from DraftKings perspective. Ole Miss is kind of around the same range as A&M, which we said a minute ago sounds about right. So that's noted there. But we're very high on the Commodores, and I think it's because we saw what Mark Byington did last year in his first season. I think their roster is really good. It's a really underrated roster based on, I think, the depth that they built. To me, that's the most impressive thing, is I think they've got a lot of depth on this roster. Won 20 games last year, finished 8-10 in the SEC, of course, made the tournament. I think sleeper team, the Commodores, we're back for a second straight summer.
Yeah, I don't like to put too much into preseason analytics. They're very, very wide range based, but Bart Torvik has Vandy 6th in the SEC entering the season. They have Vandy 22nd in the nation. Okay, now don't just go running around saying, okay, Vandy's 22nd in the nation. But it's a combination of returning minutes, projected incoming minutes, experience, talent level, all this. And you guys know I run the numbers on the 3-pointers, the incoming, the full team, what this team shoots as a collective from last year's players, the freshmen, everything. In the SEC right now, the current rosters, total 3-pointers made, Vanderbilt is 2nd in the league as a team. And total team 3-pointer percentage, Vanderbilt is 3rd in the league. Unless these guys forget how to shoot the basketball, they're going to be a top 5 shooting team in the league. I think it's a better roster than last year. I think it's more balanced. Bart Torvik has this as a top 25 team. I think this is a top 25 team. It's not the same Vandy anymore. It's a new Vandy.
Where does our friend Bart have some of these other teams we talked about? So let's say in this range of teams.
So Missouri was in this range as well, right? Didn't you just say
Missouri,
you had-
Texas, A&M, like those kind of teams. Ole Miss, who we talked about kind of, again, we split the tiers here, but these are teams that we're kind of talking the same language on.
Yeah, so the thing is if they have an international that's going to be a major piece, it's skewed because it's not, the computer doesn't have, so like Ole Miss is about 10, 15 spots lower than if they had Camerdine in the system.
Right.
So you got to know with the international guys, but Texas and Texas A&M are mid-30s. Oklahoma 31, Missouri 28. All right around that kind of
same
30-ish range. Yeah.
I was curious about that. All right, well that makes sense. So we're both in on Vanderbilt here. I think we'll again see if we change our minds on that, but I feel pretty good that unlike last summer where we did start to backtrack a little bit, I don't know if we're going to backtrack as much this year on the Commodores. So, all right. Contenders range, Max. How many more teams do you have in this range?
How many do you have?
I want to know your answer. How many more you got in this range?
I have this tier and then a top tier.
That's what I have.
Okay, so I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 in this tier, and then I have 2 in my top tier.
Wow, you only have 2 in your top tier. Oh my.
Listen, I'm a bold guy.
That.
I'm gonna go bold if I have a chance to go bold.
I wasn't expecting you'd only have 2. I'm a little bit surprised. So, all right.
I gotta go bold.
Where do you have Vanderbilt in your number rankings?
7. Vanderbilt at 7th.
All right. Yep. So now we're getting into 6, 5, 4, 3 for you, right?
Yep.
Now, just so we're on the same page, we are calling the top tier the champions tier, right?
Mm-hmm.
All right. Because I've got more than 2 in my champions tier. So
I've got 2.
All right.
At number 6 in my contenders tier, I have got the shirt I'm wearing today. I've got Auburn.
Oh no. Salty Tiger's about to be way more salty now.
Well, it's a different team. I still think they're going to be very good. Todd Pettiford and Hall are going to lead the show. But questions about the front court depth, majorly. There's a big difference from Dylan Cardwell, Janai Broom, and Chaney Johnson to Philip Jovich, Keyshawn Murphy, and Sebastian Williams-Adams. That's a big difference.
Zach.
Take this shirt off. Hey, I think you're going to be good. I don't think you're going to be a champ. If you are, you'll be happy, and you can come in and rub it in. But I think the depth, last year, guys, we were projecting Miles Kelly and Todd Pettiford to come off the bench. I think the talent is a step back from last year. I think it's going to take a little bit longer for things to gel.
Yeah, we had the discussion on Auburn, I think, was last week or the week before, and I think we came to the same conclusion, is we can certainly identify getting Pettiford back was one of the biggest moves of the offseason for any team in the SEC. But I think we can also fairly look at it and say, remember, this was a team that was very, very old last year. Yes, they're still going to be old this year with some of these guys, but they're not as old. That team last year achieved historic things that we've not seen teams achieve in a regular season in a good while. They had a player that did the same thing. And so if you remove a lot of those elements, which you are removing pretty much all of them, minus the Bruce Pearl to Todd Pettiford combination, which is a great combination, it's very understandable to have questions as to whether you can replicate what they did last year. And you're also putting it within the context of the league, right? The league features the defending national champion, features, again, some of these teams that we've yet to talk about that have probably gotten better from a roster standpoint. So, you're not just looking at your own team in your own bubble. You're looking at the entire league as a whole. So I can absolutely understand this, and I also have Auburn in this range of the contenders. So again, and I'm not even this, like, he may be Salty Tiger. He could wind up being the best player in the league.
Yeah.
But I think it's fair in July. The season doesn't start tomorrow. I think it's fair in July to put them in this range of teams where we have a few more questions. So will I move them up to the next tier by the time the season starts? Possibly. But I think we want to – that's where, like, I think the offseason is helpful because we can get a lot more sort of information and have an idea of what Jovic is doing, right? We can have an idea of how these other guys are meshing well together, like the entire depth of the backcourt and those kind of things. So that's my thought on them. I think I'm probably a little higher on them than you are, but I still have them in this range of teams.
Oh, I mean, they could be a 3 seed in March. It's the top 6 teams in the SEC. I mean, what did the 6th best team in the SEC get last year? Like, I'm not going to go and look right now, but I mean, they're going to be really good.
Well, this is where, like, I wish we had there was a split. Because I think, like, to me, I'm considerably higher on Auburn than I am the other teams I've mentioned putting in this category, the Vanderbilt, Missouri, Texas. Like, I think there's like a split where I would certainly put Auburn a little bit higher. But I think they're right there, close to that next tier for me, but I'm still going to put them probably in this range. So,
yeah. Well, I did I went through the schedules and I actually did like a rough kind of what I think their record is going to be in SEC play. And I had Auburn at 11-7 or 12-6.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I thought I was being pretty fair.
Yep. Fair enough. So, all right. So you've got 3 more teams in this range. Number 5.
Yeah, and now this is where it gets tricky because I have all these teams that go in 12-6. I went through and did it like multiple times, and I really couldn't find a way to not make any of these 3 teams 12-6. So if maybe one game goes their way, they're up at 2. If one game doesn't, maybe they're down at 6 or 7. But I've got Alabama here at 5. Could be 4 or 3 if you want it to be their 12-6 in my mind. I think Alabama's being underrated this offseason. I really do. I think Jalil Bethea is going to be fantastic in this system, and no one's going to be able to keep up with them shooting threes. Every play, like we've said, every single player on the roster can knock down threes. If there's one team from this category that I think could blow people away, it's Alabama. I think they could be a team that just offensively is so far ahead of every other team on the perimeter that they could do it. Like you said, though, when there was a question about who do we want to step up, how is Aiden Sherrill going to be as a full-time SEC starter? He committed almost 6 fouls per 40 minutes last year. So a little bit of question mark there, but I love the shooting. I absolutely love it.
Yeah, I think, again, just like we sort of said, I mentioned with Auburn, I mean, I think there is a point where you're like, you just give Bruce Pearl the benefit of the doubt, and he's going to find a way to make it work, even with a new look roster after a season like last year. I think the same with Alabama with Nate Oates in terms of he's going to find the right pieces to put into the system that has proven it can just, succeed. And so I see the guard play is there. Again, we see a front court with Bowen that we're very high on him. You've certainly got some breakout candidates around him in terms of the other big men. But I think, to me, I'm still going to go back to what sort of drives this team. It's the guard play. It's the perimeter play, and I think they've got plenty of pieces right now to do that. No, there's not a Mark Sears, but LeBaron Philon, just like we talked about, in the sense like with Pettiford, I'm not saying Philon's going to win SEC Player of the Year, but we mentioned that group of freshmen last year that made a huge impact in their first seasons. He was one of those guys, and so how you see him mix in with Aiden Holloway, Reitzel, and so forth. Jalil Bethea joins the mix. Like all these guys, I just think there's a lot to work with there with Alabama. So yeah, I think I'm pretty high on Alabama too. But admittedly, I also have them in this category.
Yeah,
they're I go back and forth on which team I'd put ahead right now. Again, I don't have my 1 through 16 rankings the way you do, but To me, Alabama and Auburn are the two teams that I think, unlike most the past few off seasons, maybe, I think I want to do a little bit more. I want to look at a bit more this off season before I have a stronger opinion on where I think they're going to actually be at come November, and then ultimately, let's say, come SEC play in January. So, hey, that's why we're doing these in July. So, all right, Max, I'm out of teams in this category.
Okay.
Because I got 4 in the champions category right now.
Okay.
So continue on.
I completely could as well. I could as well. I just, when I went through and did the records, I had a team at 15-3, a team at 14-4, and then a drop to 3 at 12-6. And so that's how I separated mine. So
by the way, too, just quickly, remember, we always say it every offseason. Our friend Sam Snelling over at Rock M Nation sends out the game-by-game picks for SEC play. And so he does that every offseason, and I filled it out I don't know how many years in a row now. Once he sends that out, Max and I are both going to make our picks for every single SEC
100%.
game, and then we will share our – and that's where I think that'll be a good look because the schedules matter here. And I'll be honest, like I didn't look at the schedules probably as much as you did for this exercise. But we will share what we have as the records for those teams. So because that's going to tell us a lot about what we think about these once Sam sends those out. So that's going to be fun. All right.
Yep.
Continue.
We gotta do that. Okay, so at 4 here, I've got Tennessee. And I absolutely, you guys know, if you've been listening, how much I love this front court. I think it's going to be one of the front courts that can be up there with Michigan and Florida. Jalen Carey, Felix Okpara, Cade Phillips, J.P. Estrella. Those 4. I mean, that is just as rock solid as it gets for a front court. You got depth. You're never going to be without a big man anytime, no matter what the foul situation is. That rotation is money. Jacoby Gillespie is going to be one of the best point guards in the country. He was last year already. The questions arise at the 2 spot with Amari Abram. We've only seen 1 year of him at high major, or not even, at La Tech. And then Nate Ament, is he gonna be that top 5 guy? There's things I love. I think that defense is going nowhere. I think Jacoby Gillespie is absolutely fantastic. But there are a few questions I have, and that's why they're in this tier for me.
Yeah, I mean, again, obviously I have them in my next tier. I have them behind probably a couple teams in that tier, but I have them in the same range. I just think Tennessee, it is, again, benefit of the doubt type thing, where we can say all we want about how they're not going to do this or do that, but I still look at it and I'm like, well, they've won... what? I mean, they've won at least 11 SEC games the past 4 years. They've made the Sweet 16 once, the Elite Eight twice. They've won at least 25 games the last 4 years. They finished, we said, in defensive efficiency in the top 5 the last 5 years, the top 3 the last 3 years. I mean, at some point, like, it's just you play the trends, and I'm like, I got to keep Tennessee in that mix for me just because I'm going to play the trends. And the trends, and I know people say, well, in March it's different. Sure, but this isn't a March ranking. This is, this is an SEC type thing. And I'm willing to sort of give them and Rick Barnes the benefit of the doubt in some of these scenarios. And so I'm going to put them in this tier for now. Like I said, I'm a little bit higher on... Even though I have them in the champions tier for me, I'm higher on a couple other teams, but they're another one that I think is, the more I look at it, I just look at that starting group, and yes, I know you have to have other pieces, but I don't think the other pieces are that bad. I think, these are guys who can play key roles in this rotation. So, man, Jacoby Gillespie is a lot of it for me, but I think the other guys... I just think, if it all comes together, which you're always banking on with every team in the transfer portal era, but if you get the best of Jalen Carey, you get the Nate Ament, who came in ranked where he was ranked as a freshman, dude, I think they're going to be really good. So,
Just think if Ament does work out and you have 6'9" Ament, 6'8" Carey, 6'11" Akpara, all out there with elite rim protection, you can beat any of them off the dribble, and you're still going to, probably get a contest from behind, and you probably have Felix Akpara waiting for you. Like, the length on this, Rick Barnes is just going to, I know a lot of people are like, well, no Ziegler, no Meshack, defense falls off a cliff. I don't think so. They have so much length.
Yeah, agreed. All right, so you've got one other team in this category, and this is where we're going to see where we differ. Like I said, I've got Tennessee in my next tier, but let's see which team that we're going to have a difference on this.
My last team in my contenders tier, I do not have in the champion tier. This is going to get the shotguns pointed at me, but I have the Cats of Kentucky. Now, hear me out. Okay? The reason why I have the Cats is not because I think they're not capable. Well, you look at this schedule. They got to play at Florida, at Tennessee, at Vanderbilt, at Alabama, at Arkansas, at Auburn, at A&M. Do you know how many road games they are going to have a spread of like a basket that they're going to have to win every single one of those in order to be at the top of the league? It's just that road schedule is so tough. I couldn't find a way to get them up to like 14-4, 15-3. The amount of road games plus just being perfect at home. It's just a tough schedule, man. It's a tough schedule.
Hey, Shane said, give me all the dubs. All the W for that. Hey, if they do that, they're going to be the number one team in the country.
There you go.
Well, look, and just so we're clear, because I know what the chat's going to look like. You have Kentucky ranked where?
Third.
Okay. So just so we're clear, Kentucky is number 3, folks. So you can do whatever the tiers you want. Like having them at 3, I don't think is that absurd. So just keep that in mind.
Big Q's injury out there.
Yeah. Well, because Kentucky is not the team, I have them in the champions tier, of course. But like, I think, again, just keep that in mind. It's number 3 as the ranking for Max right now in July. But I'm kind of surprised because I would have them higher. But I think that clearly that there's a team, and it's Arkansas is the other team, right? So if we're doing process of elimination, we both are going to have Florida and Arkansas in our champions tier. I have Kentucky in there. I also have Tennessee in there. But I, again, am going to have Kentucky higher than Tennessee or Arkansas right now for me. But I think like you said, the scheduling is important here because Kentucky has a tough road schedule. We said it when we did the schedule rankings. This is a great comment from Bob.
That's good.
July 1st, 11:50 a.m. Max Barr became public enemy number 1 by ranking Kentucky at number 3 in his SEC power rankings in July, 4 months before the start of the season.
I love it.
So let's just this is why we love Kentucky.
That's what it's all about. It's what it's
because
all about.
This is the passion we want in July. Because I guarantee there's not a lot of other places out there right now where you've got this kind of passion. But you guys are the best, and you come here to talk SEC basketball. People are asking us, well, why aren't you doing football today and all this other stuff? Hey, we're doing football here at the channel. But you guys are still passionate about basketball, and we got 4 months before the season tips off. Over 4 months. But for now, let's talk about this. So
I would be disappointed if that was not the reaction. Where's the passion? Where is it?
Sure. Exactly. So right now, we said Kentucky, I think Mississippi State, and Texas had the toughest schedules in the SEC based on our schedule breakdown we did a couple weeks ago. And so I think that is where, we kind of look at this and understand that it is going to be a challenge in terms of that schedule. Now you can play the other side, like I have a lot this offseason, and say I just think that the depth Kentucky sports is outstanding. I think Oweh is going to be 1A, 1B in terms of your SEC Player of the Year candidate coming into the season. And so I think that goes a long way. Yes, you've still got some guys I mean, if we're looking at the depth charts here, Max,
Yeah.
your entire row, I would say, of behind the starting five, the entire row of guys. I don't know if you have that, but we can look at it because this will be kind of visual.
You want me to pull it up?
If you have it, yeah, let's pull it up and just take a look at it. So
I got it right here.
I just think it's going to be interesting to see how this looks, because I think it's a talking point. I'm not saying it's going to be the end all be all, but it is something I think you can talk about with this particular team. So the entire second group, what's the common theme? Freshman, sophomore, right? Obviously, Chandler got some big minutes last year. We mentioned Cam Williams coming over, Mr. Smooth, as I like to call him, just a guy just plays with a very smooth style. Then you've got the young guys, right? You've got Johnson, Yelovic, Moreno, those guys coming in. And then, of course, would you say it's fair that the Jayden Quaintance thing, guess what? We just did a video that we talked about. The key to Kentucky winning a national title this year could very simply be the guy on the bottom, second from the right.
Yep.
And that's JQ. So I think some of that probably is fair to look at it right now and say we don't have the full answer. And maybe that's part of it. But I do think it's like you said. You can look at this group. You mentioned the shooting difference this year. But we say all that to tell you they're number 3 in Max's rankings, which means they're probably a preseason top 10 team.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. I will say, as Cam Williams and Malachi Moreno are growing on me, I think they're going to be better than I thought they were 2 months ago. Jasper Johnson is going in the other direction. If you saw his U19, I believe it is, U19 or U18, the USA, the Australia game and the France game, just really didn't do too much compared to some of the other freshmen coming in. Only played about half the time. Didn't really fill the stat sheet up too much. I think he only made 1 3. So I think Colin Chandler is probably going to be that first guy off the bench there in the backcourt. And then I am getting higher and higher on Malachi Moreno. I feel like as I originally made these depth charts, I was like, yeah, Moreno probably would just get lost in the fodder there with Garrison, Mo D, Jayden Quaintance, and everything. Every time I see this Moreno kid, highlights, whatever it is, I'm impressed. So he's growing on me a lot.
All right. So that means you, again, have Arkansas at 2, I'm going to assume.
Yep.
So I've got it flipped. Like I said, I've got Kentucky at 2. So Arkansas, they're an interesting discussion because I think they're another team that I have gone back and forth on a little bit, because I think that, again, the numbers we talked about last year, how the injuries and all that played a role and didn't feel like they had enough numbers. I think they've got more numbers this year, Max. Would you agree with that?
Yeah.
They've got more depth than they did last year. You've obviously got the stud freshmen that are joining the mix, but you get an SEC Player of the Year type candidate in Karter Knox, who's probably first, second team All-SEC, I would think, something like that. Brazil returns for whatever number season this is. They add in 2 experienced guys at the center position in Malik Ewan and Nick Pringle. Obviously, Billy Richmond comes back for his sophomore season as well. DJ Wagner's back, having played a gazillion minutes per game last year. So if you just go on really those 8,
yeah,
I mean, that's, again, that's a top 10 team to start the season right there.
I'm getting higher and higher on Arkansas the closer we get to the season. When you look at how they played in March last year, I mean, that was a team that could have won the national title. They were destroying Texas Tech. And Texas Tech went on a barrage of threes. Even Texas Tech was down by 6 with like a minute left. And if you remember, Christian Anderson hits a step back 3, and then with 10 seconds left, Darian Williams hits a tying 3. Arkansas had that game won. They were going to the Elite 8. They've got the most returning production with DJ Wagner, with, like you said, Brazil. Karter Knox could be a Player of the Year type of candidate. So you have like the same core. And basically, if you look at like what's the trade from last year to this year, what's the trade? You're trading Jonas Adu and Big Z for Malik Ewan and Nick Pringle. I'll take that trade. And then you're trading John L. Davis and an injured Boogie Fland for Darius Acuff and Malik Thomas. I'll take that. I think they get better. I don't see how they get worse. I think they get better. And I thought they were an Elite Eight or better team to end the year last year. They're growing on me. I think they're going to be rock solid.
Yeah, I'm big on them. Like I said, I know Skylar disagrees, but I do think they have more depth. They're not as deep to me as Kentucky and Florida and some of these other teams maybe we pointed out, but they have more depth than they did last year. So I think that's something. And so yeah, I'm pretty high on Arkansas. I will say I'm still probably, as of right now in July, like I think even though I have this, champions tier, we have our contenders tier and all that, I'm still sold on the idea that my top 6 teams are the same top 6 that we've talked about for pretty much a month and a half now. And that is in whatever order. It's Florida, Kentucky, Tennessee, Arkansas, Auburn, Alabama. Like those are the top 6 to me. And I think there's a little bit of a gap after that, even though we tried to, have some fun with the tiers and all that. I think those are still, to me, I haven't changed my mind on those being the top 6. But I still think Florida's 1, Kentucky is 2, and I may say there's a little bit of a slight difference for me as we go to 3 and beyond. I think Florida and Kentucky are the 2 that I'm most intrigued by right now as it stands. And of course, that means we both have Florida at number 1. They're the defending national champions. I don't really see any reason to push back too far on that. I think the only thing I will say that is, yes, they don't have Walter Clayton. They don't have Elijah Martin. They don't have Will Richard. You're replacing that production with a Boogie Fland, who certainly you would, the expectation is if you have Florida at 1, it is with the thought that Boogie Fland is going to be, a full-year player that has all the potential in the world, just like we saw last year. You're also banking on Xavier Lee being, what he needs to be at that point guard position, which obviously those two can kind of interchange a bit. And we said, I think it's when you have the returning group they have, as many NBA players they could have on this roster, with looking at the front court rotation, I just think, hey, to be the man, you got to beat the man. Gator's still a man, maybe until someone does it, and I'm not sold on putting him anywhere but 1 right now. So
I contemplated having Florida as the only champ tier. And
see,
I contemplated it.
It's possible, yeah.
But before I go to Florida, I'm going to stick up for Arkansas here. I'm going to stick up, and it's not going to be popular in the chat, but I know we do have some Arkansas viewers, and I'm sticking up for you right now. A lot of talk of, well, Arkansas can't shoot. Well, neither can Kentucky. Both are bottom 4 in percentage right now as a team. So you can't use that. And they're not deep. No, I think Arkansas is pretty deep. They're going to be bringing Malik Thomas, Billy Richmond, and Nick Pringle, a Final Four starter, off the bench. I think they're 8 deep. So all you Arkansas fans, don't worry. I got you. I'm sticking up for you. Then the Gators. Neil Black. I was talking to Neil Blackman about this. He has convinced me that the offense is going to be better than last year. I am fully convinced now they are taking a step forward. I think it's going to be the same thing as UConn. Like I said, I made that comparison. When UConn lost Jordan Hawkins, they lost all Sonogo, they lost all these guys, and everyone said they're losing too much. They're losing too much. Same thing here. I think they get better. They take a step forward.
I just love the chat. You guys are the best. Like we it's just we love like how much fun people have, especially when we do these rankings. We know during the season it gets a lot of fun. Nick and Skylar just got me just laughing over here, just having all kinds of fun with Max and Nick saying, "Where's Chris Lee? Bring him back." Hey, be careful what you wish for, Nick. Remember, Chris is the guy who was talking me off of in Kentucky for 2 years now about the defense.
Arkansas is deeper than Kentucky. I never said that. Are you capable of hearing an opinion that doesn't align with your favorite team?
Listen, Big Baller Brett's public enemy number 1 now, not you. because Big Baller Brett's saying he's got bad opinions on both Kentucky and Arkansas. So everybody take aim at no. All right. So again, we've got Florida at 1. we both have Kentucky in the top 3. I have them at 2.
I might drop Kentucky down. I might drop them down. I might drop Kentucky to my wild card tier and put them 13th.
Well, again, these were fun to do, but we all know that as much as, well, especially me, we know as much as I change my mind, these are going to change by the time we do them again. We actually have to do our 1 through 16. I have to do my 1 through 16. Max has already put his together, but when I have to do mine
are gonna have mine are gonna have renditions. Mine are gonna have changes now.
Yeah, I was gonna say we'll be doing that, our composite ranking before the season and all that. It'll certainly be something that we have to look. So they're gonna change. So all right, remember too, Big Gator EJ always brings it up. We never had Florida ranked number 1 last year in our rankings at any point. I think until maybe the final whatever of the season.
Oh, I did.
Well, as a composite, I think is what we're using here. But yes, now Big Gator EJ, you're in the spot that was unenviable. Now you are starting at the top. There's nowhere to go but down. So, or you can stay there. Or Timmy Pizzas, who was handing out free pizzas after the national championship, I think I remember, to get another banner to hang in the O-Dome for being the July 1st Southeastern 16 Power Rankings champs. Yes, everyone gets a banner if you were ranked in a certain spot here on that. So, all right, it's time for you guys to weigh in. We're going to do the 5-minute warning here. Give us your thoughts. Who was too high? Who was too low? Always curious about that. I think some of you have already made your comments known. Some of you are just having fun in the chat. I can see now. All right. Shout out to Jerry who's checking in. Hotty Toddy. Talking about the Rebels, who, again, I think we think this could be a sleeper this year.
Very high on them.
And all that. So Brian says we can't make Florida number 1 just because they won it all last year. I don't think that was the argument at all, Brian. I think they're just simply, that's just where we have them because we think they're good enough this year to be number 1. But again, I get it. So Tyler's going to go with his bold prediction. Missouri and Vandy will finish in the top half of the league standings. Says Auburn's going to fall to the bottom half. Interesting. On that, shout out to Tyler.
I've seen a few takes of that. No,
I wouldn't go that far. Even again, if we have them in the 4 to 6 range or something, I know for Auburn fans it's going to feel low just because of their recent success. But it's a different team. It's a different team. So, Wicked Bruce says it's hard to put Florida that high based on Boogie moving there when Arkansas played better without him. I understand what you're saying, but this Florida team is not that Arkansas team. It's a completely different roster and a completely different lineup, and I don't think you can compare the two right now. Now, if we get in the season and there's something like that plays out, then, hey, we will certainly, I think, revisit it. But I think right now I don't think you can just say it's an apples-to-apples comparison here because I don't think it is. You're talking about him joining the team that won the national championship last year that has their entire starting front court back. And I just think it's a little different to me. But
I really dove into Arkansas this past week getting ready for these, and I think it was not they played better without Boogie Fland. It was Jonas Adu finally got healthy. That's what it was. It wasn't. Yeah. It wasn't true. Boogie Fland. Boogie Fland was in and out with that wrist injury. But the problem was playing 35 minutes of trying to play 30 plus minutes of Big Z at the 5 in the best league in America. That was not working. And then in March, Adu finally gets healthy and they have some stability, some rim protection, and things start working out. I think it was much more of Adu and less of Flan.
Shout out to Jerry. Almost birthday time. Coming up in October. Going to be 67. Shout out to Jerry.
Nice.
So Jerry, we'll be checking back in for the preseason power rankings once we get there 3 months from now. Skyler's top 4, Florida 1, UK 2, Tennessee 3, Arkansas 4, Auburn 5. So that's somewhat similar to some of the ones we had in different orders on that. And that's good. How about you guys give us your top group? If you want to weigh in on ours, great. If you want to give us your top group. If you disagree, Give us your actual rankings. Then you will know. Sam's going to say the top 2 teams by the end of the season will be Kentucky and Florida. Well, that may be the case. I'm going to look at the odds, too, on that. So, this guy says you get some free chicken nuggets, Max. He's paying off. Max,
would you rather me lie to you and say I think you're going to win every game? I mean, I'm giving you the truth here. You got a brutal road schedule, and you got injuries everywhere. What do you want me to do?
Did Cal and Tyson, did they send you some chicken nuggets? Because if you did, I need to know, because I'd like some of those.
No other fan base this happens with. I give a fair criticism, and it's the world ends. My God.
The Cats fans are here. They're excited.
You're gonna win every game. You're gonna win every single game.
Who else have we got here? Hold on. Is there? Hold on. I can't. Some of these comments they're going too fast here. Big Baller Brats. Big Baller Brats got Alabama 1, 2 through 16 TBD. He says. So yeah. By the way, Wicked Brew brings up a good point. July 1st, the beginning of the post-house college sports world. It's officially pro sports now, talking about all the stuff. So it is a different era, folks, as we know. So different era now. All right, Harrison. Kentucky 1, Arkansas 2, Florida 3, Auburn 4, Bama 5, Tennessee 6 on that group there on that. Bobby's going to go Arkansas 1, Tennessee 2, Florida 3, Auburn 4, Kentucky 5. So, yeah.
A lot of the same teams in the top, same names. There's going to be a team that squeaks in there.
That's the thing. We all, including the chat, we all kind of have the same top 6, right? Like I said, I feel like that we all are pretty much, minus, sure, there's going to be a couple outliers there, but I think we all look at Florida, Kentucky, Tennessee, Arkansas, Auburn, Alabama as kind of that top tier. So if we were actually doing the tiers in different ways, we probably should have just said, hey, here's your top 6, and then here's everybody else, because I feel like that's where we all have them. But I think the more I look at a lot of these teams, I think that you're talking 6 teams that feel like they are top 15 to 20 teams. And it's just who could be the team that's at the one end of that range, who could be the team that's at the 15 to 20 end of that range, which means you're still one of the top tier teams in the country. Just you may be 5th or 6th in your own league just because the SEC is putting 14 into the tournament. So, yeah, I think that's kind of the fun thing to look at there on that. So, all right, what else we got on this? Let's see what we've got. Shane, I know Shane's a regular here checking in. We're at a Missouri rank. So, Shane, we both were kind of in similar ranges of Missouri. I think Max had him in the sleeper range. I had him in the lower end of the contender range, which to me still puts him like in the 8-9-ish.
Right around 8-ish, 9-ish. Yep.
I think 8 to 10-ish is probably where you're going to see a lot of that. And Max brought up the Torvik rankings too from Missouri, mentioning they were kind of in that same range with a lot of those teams in the upper 20s, mid 30s, kind of area. So here we go. I like Tyler. Tyler going with the expanded one here. Kentucky 1, Florida 2, Arkansas, Missouri, Tennessee, Vandy, Bama, A&M, Auburn, Oklahoma. So Tyler, as we said, of the opinion that he would not put a couple of those teams in the top 6 there on that. So Elijah, as always, got Tennessee going 18-0, everyone else going 0-18. Don't check the math, but that's where we're at. So, all right, we're out of here. Do you guys want to hear some Sanders moving before we move on out of here? Well, let's do it. Sanders moving, Max. Remember, it's not logistics anymore. Sanders moving. Your friends and mine, formerly known as Ted R. Sanders Moving and Sanders Logistics, a leader among moving companies in Nashville, Tennessee, and the surrounding area. Their team of professional movers focused on delivering efficient, hassle-free moving at an affordable price. I can still say this entire thing and just not even have to look anymore.
You don't even have to look.
I mean, whether you're moving across town or across the country, Sanders Moving has you covered. Visit them at tedrsandersmoving.com. All right. We're out of here, guys. We appreciate you hopping in. The summer SEC basketball power ranking tiers for the 25-26 season. As we said, we will update these as we get closer to the season. Probably October is the next time we'll do a power rankings, and that will be our official kind of preseason rankings. And plus, that's around the time the SEC puts out their preseason media rankings and all that. So we'll jump more into rankings then. We thought it'd be a fun kind of way to start July. It's, we're in the dog days of summer here.
Dog days.
The dog days of summer. We got to have something to talk about. So there you have it. Our rankings on that.
Might be some video games coming soon.
Maybe a little. I heard there's a video game on the way back. I heard that EA Sports may be up to something. But maybe we may have something before that. We'll let you know. So shout out to you guys, the regulars, the members, Nick's here, as we said, Skylar here. We appreciate you guys hopping in, discussing all the fun, Holly, Brian, everybody else, the usuals. Remember, join that It Just Means More tier at Southeastern 16. Helps out the channel. Check out our friends, GameTime Sidekicks, SE16. And
look at these guys. Come on.
Put that cat front and center, Max.
I'm telling you, you know what?
It's a great way to end.
You know another thing? I put the hot coffee in here, no lid on it. This thing somehow keeps it boiling. I'm talking no lid. 10 minutes after, I'm like, okay, it's going to be cool now. Let me go to take it. There goes the tip of my tongue for the next 3 days.
Brutal. That's what they do. They're the best in the business. So the best in the business at GameTime Sidekicks. SE16, 20% off. All right. We appreciate you guys. We will talk to you soon. Again, check out everything else on the channel. Football stuff, baseball stuff, all cranking up here, there. All right. Have fun. Have a good day. We'll talk to you soon. Southeastern 16.